right, this is Danielle over at the National Weather Service. We will go ahead and get started with today's weekly weather briefing. Let's see. To start out, we are monitoring a disturbance in the Gulf that now has a high chance of development. That disturbance has been called Invest 91L, but the important thing to take away here is that we're not expecting any local impacts from that system. Otherwise, the local weather really should remain pretty quiet through the period, pretty low rain chances through the next 7 days and just warm temperatures. Although I will mention that we do need to monitor some tide levels late in the weekend and into next week as we move into a spring tide cycle from the neap tide cycle that we are coming out of. So here's the tropical weather outlook. You can see there is that red blob in the eastern Gulf that is Invest 91L. It's expected to move southward for the next day or two and then kind of get picked up and move eastward across Florida and into the Atlantic. Again, no significant impacts are expected to the local area, so we're really not anticipating sending out a whole lot of updates about this system. I mentioned earlier that we do have pretty quiet weather locally, and so rain chances are generally low through the next 7 days at 20% or less for most places. We could see some locally higher amounts possible, but in general, most places will probably see less than a quarter inch of rain over the next 7 days. There's some higher than normal uncertainty as we get into next week, so the rainfall forecast could change, but based on the current forecast, we're just not expecting a whole lot in the way of rainfall for the next 7 days. Taking a look at the tide forecast. So right now, this is the tide forecast for Waveland at the Waveland Yacht Club. And you can see that tide range is really going to start increasing as we move into a spring tide cycle. I've got the approximate flood stage for that tide gauge kind of highlighted with that red dashed line. And you can see that we do expect things to stay below that impactful level through at least the first part of the weekend. But then as we get into Sunday and especially Monday, there's at least some chance that the water levels would exceed that approximate flood stage. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as we go into the weekend. And it's a similar story if we look west of the Mississippi River at Grand Isle. So again, I've got the approximate flood stage highlighted with that red dashed line, and you can see that the tide forecast generally stays below it, although it does get close as far as the uncertainty is concerned by the time we get into Sunday and Monday. So again, we'll just be paying a little bit of attention to that and trying to figure out if we're going to see any coastal flooding impacts late in the weekend and early next week. Just taking a quick look forward to a second week of outlook. It does look like the temperature outlook is leaning above normal for the second week of June. So generally a 40 to 50% chance most places of seeing above normal temperatures. But the better news, at least to me and my crunchy grass, is that the rainfall outlook is also leaning a little wetter than normal for the second week of June. So 33 to 40% chance of above normal precipitation in that second week of June. So that's really all I've got. Again, no local impacts expected from Invest 91L. We will be monitoring the potential for some minor coastal flooding impacts late in the weekend and into next week, and otherwise quiet weather with low rain chances and warm